we're going to bring in a friend and a colleague and really one of the talented guys doing this, Chris Plank, Big 12 Radio on SiriusXM. Also, Mad Dog Sports Radio does a great job there. Sooners Radio Network sideline reporter. Also, 9 to 11 on 94.7 The Red in Oklahoma. That's Norman, Oklahoma City, Tulsa. He's all over the place. And we say hi to Chris straight from the lawnmower. Hi, Chris. And we'll start here because I know you've been all over it. You were hosting this morning on Mad Dog Sports Radio as Brett McMurphy and Staples and all the college reporters were talking about realignment. Now, of course, you cover Oklahoma. You're right there. You're going to be headed to the SEC. But what's your take today as the Jenga pieces continue to fall across college football in the landscape?
Everything, Patrick, I thought I knew going into this realignment saga, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on. Every source that I had talked to through this process told me, yeah, there is no way that Washington and Oregon will end up in the Big Ten during this cycle. I'm not kidding, man. Every single person. So to see that happen and to see the way that it played out is really shocking. You know, there's a part of me that gets nostalgic every now and then about the Pac-12 because I grew up a UCLA fan. That was my team. I'm a little bit older, and I can remember watching, the Corey Pazes and the Gaston Greens, and I love those basketball teams with Tracy Murray and Don McClain. But to think that they're playing in the Big Ten, to think that USC is now in the Big Ten with Washington and Oregon, and Arizona's in the Big 12, and maybe Arizona State and Utah. I mean, it's very confusing how we got to this point, but chase the money. And at some point, I think the Big Ten – I've been off on everything on this, so I could be off here too. So you guys feel free to crush any take I have, Emil or Patrick. But I don't know, man. I guess they panicked because they thought the SEC might go get Florida State and bulk up on Clemson, and they thought we've got to continue to have our place. Maybe they wanted to make sure they had those TV windows. Maybe they saw the Apple TV Plus at the Pac-12 and said, "Hey, Apple TV, you don't have to spend your money there. We'll add these teams and give you better matchups week in and week out." I don't know, but I'm going to tell you something. The people that I trust in realignment that have talked to me, they were as shocked as how this played out over the last 48 hours as well.
Chris, when you look at college football, Oklahoma now going into the SEC, they bring in Venables. I love the hire because he's a defensive guy, and people forget how much success he had at Oklahoma before he went to Clemson. This program, where do they have to get better this year as they get geared up to go towards the SEC next year? What do you like about this team, and what is one of the areas where they got to get better?
Amal, I appreciate that you guys have this countdown clock so I don't talk for the next 8 minutes and 32 seconds about my beloved Sooners. So thank you for asking, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. You hit it on the head. They've got a defensive pedigree, but it sure as heck didn't look like they knew what they were supposed to be doing defensively last year. The numbers were staggering with how bad they were. So maybe this is a little bit homeristic, but the schedule is as nice as it could be to Oklahoma, especially when you consider, Patrick, Amal, I don't know if you guys know this, but Georgia's supposed to be on the schedule this year. Yep. And with them going to the SEC, they replaced Georgia with SMU. So we'll take that in week 2 from a potential dub perspective. But if they're just a little bit better defensively, just a little bit better, I think they can see themselves playing in Arlington because we know they can score points. If they protect the football, eliminate the penalties, they're a little better on the offensive line, a lot of new skill players, and, we'll see how much Dylan Gabriel has improved. I mean, Patrick, I think the last time that I talked to you was right before the Red River Showdown last year.
Correct.
That didn't go so well for Oklahoma whenever Dylan Gabriel didn't play. So they need him to stay healthy. Everyone's in love with the freshman that's coming in, and Jackson Arnold, the quarterback, the 5-star, but give him time. Amal, the easiest answer is just a little bit better defensively, and I think they've got a chance to play for the Big 12 championship.
You mentioned the 49-0 beatdown in Dallas. I've got your Oklahoma Sooners, Chris. I think you have a really good opportunity to be 5-0 headed to Dallas. Like, if you take a look at this guy, look, if everything comes together like you said, and last year was interesting because they were 0-5 in one-score games, as you know, injury problems all over the place. What's fascinating about Venables is actually offensively they were really good. It's just he couldn't stop the run. Yeah. They couldn't do anything defensively. 5-0 going to Dallas. I think that's a possibility.
Well, I would go ahead and add to this just from kind of the way the fans are looking at it right now, Patrick, and that my 9 to 11 show, 9 to noon now every day on the ref. It's all college football. It's all Oklahoma. It's all SEC and Big 12. And I can tell you this: if they're not 5-0 going into the Red River Showdown, people are going to be really angry. So it shows you how expectations go from, I hope we're a little bit better, to look at this schedule. If we're not 5-0, we suck. And I'll tell you what, I think the Big 12 is the conference of competition this year. Everyone's putting Texas as the favorite. I buy it. With that talent, they should be, but it is as wide open from about 2 to 7 or 8 as we've seen in a long time.
Chris, I completely agree with you. When I look at Texas, yes, on paper, they theoretically should be the best team, but I don't think the Sooners are that far away. I know Dustin and I are huge fans of Dylan Gabriel. I love his mobility. Drake Stoops back for his 6th year. A couple of things for you. In terms of running back, are you a Javante Barnes guy? I like Gavin Sawchuk a lot. I think he's going to be an absolute dude. And Drake Stoops, can somebody please explain to me why the hell this guy doesn't get 10 targets a game? Because all he does is catch the ball for 9.5 yards on every play.
Every play, and he's always open.
Yeah,
and he
exactly.
always catches the ball. So I think you're going to see him, just because of the lack of experience that Oklahoma has at the receiver position. Drake Stoops and Jalil Farouk are the only returning wide receivers who have done much of anything for Oklahoma. There's promise, right? There's, a lot of buzz is building around Nick Anderson. A lot of buzz is building around Jaden Gibson, the 2 sophomores that are returning. True freshman and Jaquez Pedway is getting a lot of run, but at the core of it, you got to do it in Drake Stoops that just makes plays. So they've got another guy that if they stood next to each other, you think they were the same person, and Gavin Freeman at that wide receiver spot that plays that same position as Drake Stoops does. So I think you'll see the sophomore factor in just a bit. But yeah, I love Javante Barnes at the running back position. I think he's got a chance to be a good number 1. They're big on this Caleb Hicks freshman that's coming in, but that's not to take anything away from a home run threat like Gavin Sawchuk is. It's a weird year because there isn't really a lot of returning experience anywhere at the skill position for Oklahoma. And I think that's what makes this so fascinating, because it's not dudes that have produced, but it's dudes whose ceiling appear to be pretty limitless as far as what they can accomplish at those positions.
Well, Chris, Amal, the market believes Oklahoma is going to improve big time. Their win total set at 9.5 over at DraftKings. We'll get a prediction from Chris in a second on that. I want to ask you a question. And by the way, your second betting favorite in conference at plus 340 to win it. That is Texas at even money. And Texas, Sarkisian's a joke. They always have talent, they never meet their expectations. That's before Sarkisian as well. Let's go to Venables. How did he handle the losing season? What's the overall personality? Give me a feel for him.
I think Brent Venables is one of the coolest dudes I've ever covered. He described himself as a cactus the other day. But in other words, I'm a low maintenance guy. Let me coach football, little water, a lot of sun. But I think he learned in this last year that there are a lot of people that need you and your time more than just this football team. That sounds crazy for a coach, but that's college coaching, right? Get to a point where you've got your facility and you're in the SEC and you're winning games, then those donor responsibilities and those media responsibilities are a little bit fewer and further between, but they're still there. They're always going to be there for a head coach. So I think that was a big adjustment for Brent Venables last year. I think I think he still called the defense. All right. Ted Roof was the defensive coordinator, but I think Brent Venables still called it. And I think he's learning to trust his assistants and listen even more. Not that he didn't, but just as a head coach to listen and learn a little bit more. And just overall improvement. Like the foundation side of this, it's really impressive, man. And I'm not just saying that as an OU homer, as someone that, lives, 5 miles from the university. They're building the foundation of, a holistic approach. Moms and dads are going to love this whenever they come here. And oh, by the way, after initially shunning NIL, bro, they have gone all in, and they're as competitive at NIL with anyone else in the country. So I think he's learned that not everyone operates like he does, and I think he's learned to be a little bit more sensitive to that and empower his assistants a little bit more. I'm really excited to see how he grows in year 2.
Patrick, I love your question. I love Chris's response. I was told by somebody, because I asked somebody about 7-8 years ago, why is Venables not a head coach? They said he didn't interview well, but everything else across the board is off the charts.
Yeah.
And, look, nobody in Clemson will admit this. The reason they have 2 national titles is because Dabo Swinney hired him in 2012. If he was still in Norman, I'm telling you right now, there's a new head coach in Clemson at this point in time. That's how much I think of Venables and the job he's going to do here with this team defensively. They just need to kind of get on track here. You look at them, they've got some pieces there. Stutzman's a great linebacker to start with. Can Dylan Gabriel stay healthy, and can they get this offense going? I'm with Chris, and I know Chris covers OU, but I'm telling you, Patrick, they're always tough at home. They have talent. They got 7 starters back on defense. I think they're going to be right there.
Do they get to you see the clock, Chris? Do they get to 10 wins?
Yeah. Boy, with this schedule, they should. They better. I liked what you said about Dylan Gabriel. He's got to improve in his accuracy and his footwork and his touch. His receivers have got to help, and a lot of drop passes last year. Minimize the penalties. And let me give you a name defensively. Get to know him. Where's number 7? Jaron Kanik. I think he's the guy next to Danny Stutzman at that linebacker position. Can be really special for Oklahoma. Was a Clemson commit. Brent Venables like, don't come here, stay going to Clemson. Kanik's like, nope, I'm coming. And now he's got a chance to be a starting linebacker. I think they can hit that over.
Chris, Deshaun McCullough's going to have a monster year.
Stud.
You guys should do an Oklahoma show together.
Hey, is the Colonel still there?
Is the what?
Is the Colonel still there?
Oh, no, he left. He's not there anymore, but he's still a legend.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.